concept I've been talking about on and
Yes.
off.
Yes.
Finally got my round to it, and this is prototype number one. Uh, I had been making things needlessly complicated, and after speaking to my mechanical engineer son, got a much better idea for accomplishing the intended task. If you don't know what you're looking at, this is a Carrera Digital D132/D124 wireless plus controller, trigger, slot car controller, handle adapter print. So as I mentioned, this is prototype number one. Actually worked pretty good for a first prototype. And changing pictures, another view of it. This is prototype number two and the exploded view. So you can see it's just a simple single lever trigger. You take the thumb pad off of your controller. You take the side panels off of the controller. The little extension onto the plunger, and then you clip it all together. And the main difference between prototype number one and prototype number two, if you're a Carrera Digital Wireless Plus user, you probably saw this right off the bat. Prototype number one has no room whatsoever to push the little code button or see the little charge light, which I completely forgot about until I put it together and realized, hey, you need access to that button. So prototype number two puts a big scallop in there, and now you can access that button more easily, just enough for a finger. I also did a two-finger trigger version because I prefer two-finger triggers, so single finger and two-finger trigger options available. The biggest hurdle that had been dogging me for this entire time that I had this concept was how to hold the controller in the 3D printed contraption. My first idea was, take the guts out of the controller and put it into a 3D printed contraption, but people don't like to take things apart and void warranties and all that stuff. Then it was like, well, how am I going to clamp the controller into the print, to hold it steady while you're using it? And at one point I remembered that some dude had designed 3D printable replacements for these plasticky, flexible plastic stuff, because they are actually known to degrade like their tires do and start to leak whatever bizarre chemicals come out of those things. So he designed 3D printed ones so you could do your own colors and everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I just design a thing that goes into those same spots, I can just hold the controller from the side using those sockets. So that's basically what this wing shape is it goes into the side. You've already seen this in the pictures, and then picture of me holding it, and a
Greg,
video
it,
of
it
me.
looks like a prop for the next Batman movie.
Yeah, you don't want one in your luggage when the police pull you over.
Yeah, they might think it's a sex toy. They're probably not going to be worried about it doing it other than maybe shooting darts. But yeah, there is the concept, and I'm ready to share it and or sell it. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. Before I do the sharing or whatever, does anybody have any suggestions? Like, you see some glaring thing that I've missed?
Well, to put the two halves together, they snap together?
Yes. I designed little compression clips that go into the holes on either side. So a single clip has the compression.
To prevent the clips from failing, have you thought about just maybe having holes that align up with some sort of fasteners?
Well, the reason I did clips in the first place rather than just say buy these screws and put it together is because I didn't want to tell people to buy screws. I've done that for most of my contraptions. Oh, you got to buy this kind of hardware to do it how I designed it. I wanted to be able to say fully 3D printed, no need to buy any hardware, and the clips work pretty good. It holds together real well. I also designed slots in the places on the shell near the clips, so you can do a little twisty twist to pop it back open if you decide to change triggers or whatever.
Just one opportunity that you might have missed,
What?
and this is just for fun.
Yeah.
Would have been to have 3D printed a complete fist that held the controller.
As a controller holder, basically.
It's basically replicate the human hand that holds and the fingers that would wrap around the Carrera and make it look like
the Incredible Hulk hands.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, no, that would be silly. I'm not gonna do that.
No, but it would be great to see.
Did you think about
Sure.
Does it?
to activate the or actuate the lane change button?
Well, one of the things that I dislike about the Carrera plunger controller design is that you pretty much have to use the same hand to push the plunger down with your thumb and actuate the lane change with your finger. And doing these things accurately with one hand is very challenging. And I'm sure somebody who does it with Carrera constantly does not feel that that's a challenge. I don't like doing it that way, so the actuation of the button is with your other hand, which is much more comfortable for most other pretty much every other digital racing system. You're holding the controller with your driving hand, and then you're using your other hand to press whatever button you need to press on the thing. So this is fairly easy. You just put your other hand over top of the button and press it down whenever you need to change lanes.
Perfectly good sense. Yeah.
I do
So
like to overcome the fact that the trigger has a rotational action while as a plunge, a straight line plunge, and you've actually covered that with that slot pivot. That's neat.
Yeah, the original design was a rack and pinion system that required the whole thing to be much longer and hang off the back of it even more, which pretty much eliminated the possibility of this ever happening. And I really wanted to be able to have people just put it on the charger and not worry about it. It's still a little precarious, but I shortened the handle a little bit to make it better. And, with some clever print infill density manipulation, you could, make it even better. But it stands. Just don't blow on it.
Greg,
Go ahead, Johnny.
when you pull the trigger and you pull it all the way so the controller now is at 100%,
Yes, sir.
is there a space between the trigger and the handle?
A very small amount. I didn't take a
My
picture.
point, I guess, was that you could pull it too hard and break it and maybe put a little bump stop on there. So when it hits the bump stop, it's at full power on the throttle, on the controller?
That's worth looking at.
So there would be no way to pull it further and then actually break the trigger.
Yeah. Let me just show what it currently does. So with the single finger version, it pretty much stops just, I don't know, maybe a millimeter away from the opening in there. And this one with the two finger is pretty much the same. So it's not actually touching the casing.
Yeah, pretty much does it on its own.
But it's not going any further. The trickiest part, which is why this plunger adapter thing is so long, is getting a good finger rotation amount, so you're not going too far away or not close enough or whatever, and you're not losing any motion, right? Like the plunger is going all the way down when I pull the trigger, and it's being pushed, and the trigger is pretty much being pushed all the way back when the plunger is when it's released. Yeah, I don't think a bump stop is necessary because the plunger itself is a pretty good bump stop, and time will tell. But I'm sure there will be improvements over time. There always are for that anything. But my goodness, let's let Jeremy ask his question.
Okay. Hey, no, I was going to say you absolutely should sell that because it's such a niche market for it. I don't know how many people run those controllers, but that's definitely something you would kind of corner the market on because nobody else is going to be making that. But I was going to say on your handle part, if you could, I don't know what slicer you're using, but if you could, where the actual handle part is, if you could tell it no layers for the top and bottom, you'd have a hollow, you'd have like a you'd have just the infill there, and it would give some air clearance. Because like when you hold that plastic forever, it's going to be sweaty. But I mean, you could design it too if you wanted to do it with kind of a spider web kind of look on the handle, just for the airflow, and then that would loosen up or lose some weight on the top when you were balancing it up. I don't know if it would still retain the strength, but just for test, I would just, that part of the handle, I would just remove the top and bottom layers and let it just do its infill part and see how it looks. It may look stupid, I don't know. But I always know the one thing I hate is solid plastic handles, but everybody sells solid plastic handles, so I can't put a fan in there or anything. It's just, my hand gets sweaty and I'm fat, I guess.
No,
So-
you're right. When I'm racing for a long time, my hand definitely gets moist,
Yeah, a little
So-
clammy. Yeah.
a little clammy. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. I'll probably play
I don't
around
know.
with it. But yeah, I mean, just basically the part that's in your hand
Yeah.
is
Just-
see through, pretty much.
Just make it like a mesh right there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hexagons.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need to make money, which, I have that privilege, and that making money presents tax problems to deal with, which I don't want to do. So, but at the
Well, I
same
think
time,
it's back up. I think the tax limit is back up to 6 or 10,000, and I don't know exactly what. I'd have to look it up, but
I guess
I don't
we'll
think it's
find out.
600 anymore. Yeah.
The last I heard was 600, but yeah, so we'll find out. I mean, this year I did get a 1099 for
YouTube.
Google, the ad.
Yeah.
Freaking ad. And it wasn't even 600. But, if the government gets it, then you definitely gotta make sure it's on your return. Anyway, so yeah, the other thought was, maybe I do another deal with Alan and have, sell these through him. So, I get store credit to spend on slot car stuff or whatever. Or just, if somebody out there is like, oh my God, that's the best idea ever, I want to sell those, send me an email and, maybe I'll just give you permission to be the exclusive maker retailer of Greg's awesome Carrera Wireless Plus handle adapter thing.
That needs a good
But yeah,
acronym.
the other
Scorpius
thought-
is
the
gonna
other-
be in Dutch.
The other thought was, it's now that I've shown this as a thing that actually works, rather than just telling the world my idea, dollars to donuts, there's going to be somebody who does their own version in less than 6 months. And hey, they got the fancy, awesome thing. Oh, somebody else did it? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Anywho, what were you saying, Gio? I didn't hear you.
That the Scorpius is gonna be in Dutch.
No, he won't bother. He'll just do it.
How popular are those controllers? Because like I've never seen them other than when you show them. Like I don't know.
Pretty much every Carrera digital person gets these.
Okay.
So
They
All
come
the
in-
sets now
come in-
that are digital come with that one.
no, you still
No,
have to
that's
get a set that comes with them or buy them as an accessory, but they're so affordable. They're inexpensive, and pretty much the main reason I did this was because the only way to do wireless controllers for Carrera Digital that are trigger controllers, you're paying a fortune for Frankenslot wireless controllers, which are even hard to find. Or you're wired, right? You can get a Ramjet X or a True Speed that are trigger controllers, fantastic controllers, but they're wired, not wireless. And they're more expensive than the wireless controller. Don's showing off his wireless controller.
How many of them
Yeah.
you want to see, Jeremy? I got about
I-
8.
I'm
You
sure
gotta-
people have them. I was just trying to figure out like I just never seen anybody using one. I assume they do, but
Yeah, like I said, Carrera Digital
Do.
people
They
for
do.
sure love them.
Speaking of
In
thumb
Germany,
pointer
for instance,
controllers,
even like large clubs that run digital, they use that controller.
Yeah.
the
I've
thumb.
seen
See,
videos.
see, I was thinking like
Yeah.
a large club would actually go, okay, let's get real controllers in here and not mess with that. But I just didn't know where the market was for that. But if they're still using those, maybe you got something there, Greg.
I mean, some do, obviously, get the Ramjet
Yeah.
X or True Speeds or whatever, or the Franken slots.
Yeah.
But, if you're a guy at home, you got your 6 controllers, you got your 6 wireless plus controllers, but you're longing for a trigger, call me.
Polycar recently developed a thumb plunge controller for their basic sets.
Yeah.
And
I had those, and I'm never gonna encourage people to use those. I will do
now
absolutely anything to encourage people.
I'm not sure about the one you're referring to, but I know there's a brand new one that's not yet released. It's in the pipeline. So I think the issue, whatever the issue was, has been identified and there's an attempt to rectify, and it's actually got a curved action to replicate the curvature that the curved path that your thumb naturally takes, which made it feel remarkably usable compared to any other thumb plunge controller I've ever personally had in hand. And I can't say anything for the Carrera because I don't think I've ever tried that one. But the new Polycar one felt like if you're gonna use your thumb, this is probably as good as it gets in a set. But that was a pre-production prototype that I saw at Slot Festival.
Well,
this would be a good spot for you to try the eBay international free shipping too, because a lot of the customers would be European, and that makes it so much easier. Like there's no paperwork. You just ship to a local US spot, they send it over there.
Yeah.
That might be a way to dip your toes into the international shipping again without the hassle.
I've never felt it being much of a hassle other than for the EU with the stupid codes and stuff. But yeah, the other thing that bugs me is they recently came out with the update to their wireless controller called Wireless 2.0, which uses a different wireless technology, so they're not even compatible, forward or reverse compatible. And the shape is different. It's still a plunger with a button, but it's got this wholly curved shape that it won't stand up on its own. So there's nothing to hold it. You just put it down on your track laying down or whatever. But it doesn't have the same side panel thing for me to make use of. Like I was thinking, well, if I could just adapt this to work on that controller, but I can't. I don't. I'd have to get one to tear it apart and see if that's even possible, but I don't think it will be. And you have to get it takes a battery instead of being rechargeable, which is only accessible on the backside, which would have to be more or less covered up under here. Anyways, I'm just bitching and moaning now, so I'm done with this. Let's move on to other things. Gio, did you have a show and tell?